Hi, and welcome. This is Peter Safar for Government for 12th grade. And today we're going to be going over Introduction to Government Regulation. All right, let's get started. So class, for today's warm-up, I want you guys to think, if you owned a business, what would you think of if the government came in and started giving you a bunch of new rules to follow? How would this affect your business? So I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a business owner, and you just got into the market, into the economy, and you want to start selling your product or providing your service. How would you feel if the government came in and just said, whoa, wait, I need you to follow these strict rules first? Would you be understanding? Would you say, oh, well, this is probably important, I should do these things? Or do you think it's bothersome, tiresome? You just put in money into this business, you just want to start, you want to help the economy, and the government's coming in and stopping you, and now it's putting up all these roadblocks. So I want to hear what you think. I want you in your notebooks to write down your answer right now. Just one or two sentences is fine, but then I also want you to leave space for your answer afterwards, either after class or during the end of class if we have extra time. Just fill in what you think of after the lesson. All right. Do you have any questions, comments, and/or concerns about the warm-up? All right, fantastic. So let's move on to the next slide, where we are going to start talking about regulation. So regulation is when the government controls business behavior by creating a set of rules or laws. So just like the warm-up, that's when the government comes in and says, whoa, wait, you can't keep running your business or industry or company like this. You need to follow these rules first, and then we will allow you to continue. That's what regulation is. All right. Do we have any questions, comments, or concerns about regulation? All right, let's continue and talk about some federal consumer agencies. These are the ways government enacts their their uh, their policies, their regulations. So these agencies are how governments keep business and industries in check. So the government doesn't directly go to each company and say, well, do this, and do this. They have agencies under them that follow their rules. So we have the FDA, we have the EPA, and we have the FTC. These are all things we're going to go over right now. So let's get started. Let's talk about the first one, the Food and Drug Administration, FDA. This protects consumers from unsafe food, drugs, or cosmetics, requires truth when labeling these products. So if something's going onto the market, the FDA has to look at it first, has to approve it. There are some things that do end up on the market that are not FDA approved. That probably means they're either not safe or not up to the standards of the American government. Um, there are some things that are just not allowed ever to go into market without FDA approval. Some of these things are like pharmaceuticals. You guys probably remember during the end of the Trump administration, the administration was really pushing for the FDA to approve some coronavirus vaccines that were in late development, but the FDA has strict rules against this. They have procedures. Anything that goes, especially for pharmaceuticals, anything that goes to human consumption must be safe, and they have a long process to make sure that it is safe. Um, they did end up giving a couple of vaccines emergency approval. This was during the Biden administration, right at the beginning. This was the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine, or actually, it could have been during the end of the Trump administration. It was after the election, and the FDA gave their approval, but it wasn't. It's still not FDA approved. It's an emergency approval, which means even though it didn't finish up the entire trial, it got close enough to the end that the FDA said, you know what, this is safe that we can see, and we're going to approve it for now. But it still has to be FDA approved. So later on, as we see that the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are completely safe, they will get the FDA approval label. This also goes for food as well. Food companies, meat industry, things like that have to go through the FDA to make sure everything they do is safe and for consumers to later on consume. If a slaughterhouse is doing something to their animals that might hurt the humans later on, or is being too overly uh, uh, inhumane to their animals, FDA will come in and stop that. Do we have any questions, comments, or concerns about the FDA? All right, let's move on to the next one. The Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. This protects health by enforcing environmental laws regarding pollution and hazardous materials. The EPA makes sure that companies and industries get rid of their waste properly and make sure that it doesn't affect the economy or humans nearby. Also, it makes sure that the economy in large is protected from industries, because there are industries that are out there like the oil industry, the logging industry, that want to consume resources in the environment, and the EPA has to make sure it doesn't go too far and that it is sustainable. We want to make sure that our water is staying clean, that our forests are being renewed every once in a while, and that oil is not going to be an issue. Because if any of those things goes wrong, it'll have a huge effect on us as humans, as civilians nearby. Toxic waste can be a huge problem, and it has to be properly disposed of. But some companies don't want to dispose of it properly because it's an expensive thing to do. There's some waste that is just it's hard to get rid of, and so when you do get rid of it properly, it's expensive. It's much easier to just throw it out somewhere, either at a dump or at a lake nearby, and just forget about it. But what happens is it affects the environment and it affects humans nearby. And even if it doesn't affect the humans nearby, just the if affecting the environment can later on affect the humans nearby. It's kind of a domino effect. You have to make sure that the environment is safe so that that we're all safe. All right, do we have any questions on the EPA? Questions, comments, concerns? All right, let's move on to the Federal Trade Commission, FTC. The FTC enforces antitrust laws and monitors unfair business practices, including deceptive advertising. What this means is the FTC is the agency in charge of making sure companies keep their consumers safe. They're not allowed to take advantage of their consumers. When you go into a business, you want to make sure you're not being taken for a fool. You have to make sure that you're not going to lose everything, and that companies tell you what you're getting into when you sign up for, let's say, a loan, or if you sign up for a program that takes money every month from you. The FTC has to make sure that it's clear to the consumer and that it's safe. That's why many businesses have to be approved by the Better Business Bureau. It's to make sure that what they're doing is safe for consumers. And the FTC, Better Business Bureau, which is a certification that businesses can get, all help with this. When unfair business practices are being practiced, it can lead to huge problems, not just for consumers, but for the market at large. We're going to talk about later when we talk about deregulation, but a great example is the 2007, 2008 recession, where it was because of deregulation and because of risky business practices that banks almost put the entire global American and global economy into a depression. It only went to a recession, which is not as bad as the depression, but still it took years to recover from it. It took years for the market to recover. And it's important to make sure that these companies are not only being safe, but are made to make sure to be safe. Because if given the chance, a lot of companies will just look to profit. They won't look to long-term issues, or they won't look to even short-term issues, as long as they can make a profit. And that's why these rules are set in place by the FTC. All right, do we have any questions, comments, or concerns about the Federal Trade Commission? All right, let's move on. All right, so for the end of today's lesson, for today's exit ticket, I want you to think about the lesson we just went through about regulation, and on a piece of paper, no, excuse me, sorry, on a piece of paper, tell me in 3 to 4 sentences, I want you to tell me whether or not, as a business owner, regulation helps you. So I want you to think as a business owner, does the idea of regulations, can it help you? Why or why not? And if you have any issues, I will be taking verbal explanations as well. If you have problems understanding anything, let's talk about it. And then you can give me your verbal explanation and I will count it as credit. And that will be your exit ticket for today. Please remember to finish up on the warm-up as well, either right now with the exit ticket, but if we don't have time, just finish it up after class. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. I will see you next time, and we will be talking about deregulation.